Good afternoon. Hope everybody's having a good week so far. My name is Joe Hallman. I'm part of the sales and marketing team here at Synapse, and I'll be your host today. The topic for today's webinar is saving energy and reducing downtime. As always, I want to first start by saying thank you to everybody for joining us. I know everybody's busy, so we do want to tell you we appreciate you spending some of your time with us today. One quick note, in the Zoom interface, it's going to be either at the top or the bottom of your screen. You'll see a Q&A icon. Just click on that and send us questions during the webinar. I'll be responding to those in kind of the background. And if there's any leftover questions, we'll address those at the end of the presentation. We'll have some time, or we'll follow up with you by email after the webinar. This is just the most efficient way to kind of handle these questions when there's a big group like today. So I'm really excited to have Jamie Britnell as our speaker today. He's currently the Director of Product Marketing. For several years before that, he was the Director of Product Management here at Synapse. So he's been very involved with both developing and bringing Synapse solutions to market. And with that, I'll let you get started. Jamie, take it away.
All right, cool. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. Everybody joining in today. Again, like Joe mentioned, we know that you all have other jobs and other things going on, but we appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day to hear about some of the things that we're working on here at Synapse. So for many of you, today may be the first day for the first time you may have heard of Synapse. And before I get started, I wanted to take a few moments and introduce Synapse to you guys. Like I said, it may be the first time you've heard of Synapse or our platform, SimplySnap. So I wanted to take a couple minutes just to tell you a little bit about our company. As you can see on the screen, Synapse is an Internet of Things company. We're based in Huntsville, Alabama. We got our start back in 2007 before IoT was really a thing. So we've been around this block for a while. We were acquired actually in 2012 by McWane. McWane is a 100-plus-year-old company. They're based down in Birmingham, Alabama. They have a very long history in industrial manufacturing, working in foundries. They provide a lot of the materials for large infrastructure projects around the world. Our team of design engineers here based in Huntsville, our support team, our field engineers, really everyone at Synapse, we're really dedicated to helping our customers. And for those in the manufacturing space especially, we really want to help you guys achieve profitability through sustainability. A little bit more about what I mean by that. Sustainability is, I think, getting a lot of press these days, and it's often coupled with potentially complicated new regulations, a lot of new systems, things that are expensive and cumbersome to implement. And sometimes these things sort of leave profitability of the enterprise behind. Well, we want to take a different approach here at Synapse and with our product, SimplySnap. We really want to help you guys focus on improving profitability through our holistic energy and resource management platform, but also enable you to deliver on those sustainability objectives of your company. So a little bit more about what we do, that kind of gets into a little bit of it actually. So let's dive into that a little bit deeper. I've already mentioned it, but SimplySnap is our platform. It is used to sense, analyze, and control thousands of devices at industrial scale. I mentioned that Synapse was founded back in 2007, and we actually got our start building wireless mesh networking technology. And that technology is what powers our system today, enabling our solutions to connect to thousands of controllers and sensors throughout a facility. And over the years, we've extended that technology to provide on-site control capability and cloud-based analytics to really build out our energy and resource management solutions. And what SimplySnap does today is that we help deliver those insights into how energy and resources within your facility are being utilized. And we enable control over what we refer to as the big three energy consumers within manufacturing facilities. Those big three being lighting, HVAC systems, and compressed air systems. The Department of Energy actually highlighted those as three of the most common, larger energy consumers in a plant. But today we're really going to talk about, kind of focus down on the insights portion of SimplySnap. But before we get to there, I want to talk about what makes us different. What makes us different than other controls and resource management platforms out there? First, what we want to talk about is that everything we do today, everything I talk about during this presentation, we can all be done with one system. A lot of times today, if you're wanting to talk about control solutions, you have to go find a specific point solution to solve that problem. or if you're looking for energy insights or monitoring the condition of various pieces of equipment, you'll need a separate system for that. Well, what we do is we work all those solutions into one system. We call it SimplySnap. The other thing that's different about us is that we work with existing equipment, regardless of vendor or how old that equipment may be. This really helps our customers get the information they expect from a modern system, while also avoiding the need for new equipment or expensive retrofits. And we have a decade of IoT experience. We are integrated with some of the nation's largest leading lighting manufacturers for our control platform. We have thousands of deployments by hundreds of companies with over 2 million edge devices in the field, and actually have 40 plus issued IoT patents in the space. So where we really fit in are large scale environments that cover large spaces. Finally, one of the other things here is we really take quality and security very, very seriously. All of our quality management system and solutions there are meet the requirements of ISO 9001, and our information security management system is also certified to meet ISO 27001. Those are really important, especially in the world of IoT these days. I mentioned earlier about the fact that we're owned by McWane. Well, McWane, like I said, is a company with over 100 years of manufacturing experience. They have helped us in terms of developing our solution as well. They provided kind of a fertile field for us to go and try out and test out some of the new solutions that we're bringing to market. McWane, you may not know, but they're a multi-billion-dollar company. They have 30 locations in 14 states, 9 countries around the world, and they help us. They were really a customer of ours very early on as we started putting together some of these manufacturing focused solutions, and have been a really good partner with us in bringing these to market. So with that being said, I want to kind of jump into the topic for today. And one of the things that we've done for our customers that span different types of manufacturing companies is that we have observed really kind of 2 major issues that have come up over that period of time. And they're I guess the best way to say they're coming from 2 different places within the company. First, as the plant or the facility manager, you're likely the one overseeing the team or with the ultimate responsibility for keeping the production lines going, making sure everything stays up and product come out. And you've got this goal of reducing or eliminating as much unplanned downtime as possible, because unplanned downtime will kill the productivity of your facility. Secondly, you've given various kind of governmental programs and corporate sustainability initiatives and climate change and other environmental concerns. You probably have been tasked by the corporate headquarters or the executive management team to reduce the factory's energy consumption and the carbon footprint of the building. Those 2 things, and the need to save energy and reduce unplanned downtime, is really what we want to spend and focus our time on today. So you've got this challenge. If you're the facility manager, you're presented with this huge challenge. You've got plant owners and executive management that they're trying to prepare and develop sustainability goals and meet ESG requirements. And there's this huge push as well that you've got to reduce energy cost and energy consumption, and you've got to achieve the sustainability objectives that have been mandated from HQ. But these changes and these things, these programs that you're putting into place, they can't impact compliance. They can't impact EHS requirements. There's a lot of things that have to kind of stay put within the facility. Plus, those improvements can't reduce productivity. In fact, if you're the plant manager, you're trying to find ways to improve productivity amidst making all those changes. So you've got those 2 changes that are there, and kind of in the middle of all that, you've got to keep all this stuff within a tight capital budget. You can't go over that, and blow the budget for the year. So you've got to maintain all these changes and everything within that budget. So those are challenges, but given those challenges, there's actually real benefits to kind of spending time thinking about and solving those problems within the facility. If you can put in a energy management solution, you'll gain the insight you need to kind of understand where the inefficiencies are, where energy waste is occurring. And as you put those programs into place, you'll find ways to reduce it. And reducing that waste will lower cost. It'll eventually improve the profitability of the facility. And of course, on the flip side, if your company has this corporate sustainability objectives and and you're trying to meet those, then putting this energy management system into place will help you achieve those initiatives and provide the data to upper management to show how effective those activities are in terms of achieving those objectives. Again, with downtime, spending time to figure out how to reduce that unplanned downtime. Some of the common sources of downtime among our customers involve equipment issues, lack of material in the process, and systems within the factory that potentially exceed certain thresholds that push them out of compliance with environmental or safety standards. So with a resource management system focused on providing data to address those areas, you can identify the equipment issues, you can know the status of material within your processes, you can transition from a purely reactive way to a proactive way of monitoring compliance metrics within equipment there in your facility. Now, there's a lot of energy management solutions out there. There's a lot of control solutions out there. So energy management and resource management systems aren't anything new. You may actually have some of these that are listed on the screen in your factory today. The issue is that each of these systems kind of stand on their own. They each have their own user interface. They have data that they're all collecting that is potentially kind of siloed away. It's all fragmented from other systems. Plus, some of these systems are really kind of overkill for solving the problems we mentioned earlier. They're big, they're bulky, they're hard to use. Their user interface looks like they're from 1995. With installation and service fees attached to that, there's really no way for these systems to meet a stringent 2-year payback or less that may be a requirement for your particular company. So how do we solve the problem of reducing the amount of energy and reducing the downtime within the facility without having to cobble together a lot of these separate systems? Well, what I want to propose today is that SimplySnap, that's where SimplySnap comes in. SimplySnap is our solution that's designed to help manufacturing customers address those challenges that I mentioned earlier. Whatever that solution is, whether it's SimplySnap or whoever, most factories need a payback period of 2 to 3 years on any type of solution they put in. If that payback doesn't fit into that window, you're probably not going to move forward with the project. Well, we've designed our system to meet that payback period. It's not always easy, but we believe we can pull that off in most cases. And there's really kind of 3 ways that we achieve that. First, our solution is wireless. In many cases, even battery powered. And so that cuts out the installation costs typically associated with a solution that may be similar to ours. Our software makes it easy to integrate with other hardware and software solutions that may already exist in the factory. So you don't have to rip out the equipment that you have now, you can use the equipment that you have. And then thirdly, and this is a real important part, is that our services team, the customer support team, the custom engineering team we have back in Huntsville, our services team really puts the whole software and hardware package together. And we can deliver off-the-shelf capabilities, but also we want to work with you directly. And if there are things that make sense to you, then we can customize our solution to fit the problems that you have in your particular factory. So let's dig a little bit deeper into SimplySnap and energy insights. So one of the things I want to kind of zoom out real quick and big picture, just talk about the amount of energy that the industrial and manufacturing sector uses. We had a study here from the U.S. Energy Information Administration that I think this was updated in 2020, where it says that in that sector, it consumes about 32% of the energy produced in the United States. That kind of blew me away. And in terms of manufacturing industrial companies, a third almost of all the energy produced in the United States is consumed by that sector. And if you dig into the numbers a little bit more, here's some stats from the US Census Bureau. The average manufacturing facility spends about $1 million a year on electricity. So a lot of their operating budget going to just paying the power bill. And so with those two kind of in the backdrop, the top of your mind as we dig into how do we save energy at that facility. So here may be some things if you're been tasked with the idea of, hey, we need to reduce the energy costs within our facility. Some things you may come back with, hey, our utility costs are complex. It depends on the time of day. We have peak demand charges. There's a lot of other variables in play. It's hard for me to pinpoint where we can actually reduce energy within the facility. Like, who's actually consuming. We get the power bill every month, right? But no one knows, is it this department that's consuming the most energy? Is it this piece of equipment that's consuming the most amount of energy? It's really hard to pinpoint and put a program in place to reduce energy when you have no visibility within the factory where to focus your efforts. And not only that, but it's difficult to track compliance to corporate initiatives that are related to energy savings and sustainability. If corporate headquarters or the management team wants information, how do you provide where you're focusing your efforts if you don't know even where to start? And so that's the problem that Energy Insights within SimplySnap was designed to solve. We help you identify where the plant is wasting energy, and then that enables you to develop a corrective action plan to optimize the energy usage within the facility and ultimately lowering the operational costs of your facility and of your plant. So let's dig a little bit deeper into SimplySnap. SimplySnap's Energy Insights allows you to focus action to reduce the energy spend by highlighting when, how, and where energy cost is occurred. So you saw the stats earlier. The industrial sector consumes a lot of energy, but in manufacturing facilities, like I mentioned, it's hard to determine where that energy waste is occurring. Our solutions begin with the data. In order to know when, where, and how energy cost is incurred, we monitor everything from the equipment to the panels and departments to actually the mains coming into the facility. So we start by establishing a facility energy baseline model. What we want to do is calculate in real time the energy cost and compare energy consumption across the facility. We expand that with sub-metering within the facility, either by department or maybe production equipment gathered together. And we then actually put the sensors on the equipment and understand what energy is being consumed by device. We connect all those existing resources, we connect to those wirelessly, and which means you don't have to run expensive conduit to all your equipment. And that means the cost of the project, we keep that cost of the project down, and that's going to result in a faster ROI for you. Once those devices are all connected, they're going to communicate over our patented wireless mesh network. So once we're starting to get all of that data, you've got the equipment installed, you've got the sensors installed, we're going to start measuring the flow of power through that facility. And when you start doing that, you can then begin rolling up costs by equipment and department. We know that your power bill isn't based on some simple formula. There are peak demand charges, there's variable rates based on day, and there's also different rates throughout the year. Here's an example of one of our customers where their rate schedule during the summer between 12 and 6 p.m. is higher than obviously overnight any other time of the year. And our energy algorithm within SimplySnap considers that complex rate structure, those different rates based on month or time of day. It considers the cost of peak demand in a given month. And all of that information is put together, compiled to give you a complete view of what and who is consuming all the different power inside your facility. But it doesn't end with just pulling the current clamps and the sensors and looking at the equipment and panels. We know that you don't think about sensors or current clamps. You think about equipment. You think about the departments within your facility. SimplySnap allows you to associate the power readings with specific equipment, and then you can place the equipment into departments. So whether you're looking at the power consumption of a piece of equipment or an entire department, SimplySnap makes it easy to visualize that data. And here's an example of that. So if you've got sensors on, for example, the RTU or the bag house or the welder, or you've got all those grouped together into the paint department or the flange shop or the finishing department, you can group all those together and see what the dollar amount consumed in those specific departments or by that equipment over the past, for this example, in the past week. What did that department cost me in terms of energy? So once you have that data, once we've monitored the equipment, we've got the mains, we've got the panels monitored, then we convert that power data into cost and then group that data by the equipment departments. We provide the user the ability to see where to focus the investigation. So a general manager in a facility will often review data that looks like this with the department heads, maybe on a weekly or maybe on a monthly basis. And that group wants to prioritize investigations into how to reduce energy costs. In this view, the general manager can see the facility total usage over a period of time. The Pareto charts that you see there at the bottom of the screen, they provide a good way for the facility management to prioritize improvement activities. The general manager can then see the top cost departments, the top cost equipment types, and you have a very clear way now to prioritize investigations for the department heads. So energy use varies greatly by the production schedule too for most facilities. We can also enable the user to select weekdays, weeknights, or even weekends to view the cost, which correlate to many production schedules. And then it's up to the team there to take the action, to, whatever action they need to be able to solve the problems within those particular departments regarding the energy cost. So taking it kind of another step, let's go a little bit deeper. So SimplySnap reports on that consumption, not only in just kilowatt hours and dollars, but it's all based on that facility's rate schedule. Our dashboard is going to enable you to view the energy use across the production lines. It's going to be able to look at department by hour, by shift, by day, by week, by month, by year. And so with that amount of data, you're going to be able to kind of reveal underlying trends, underlying patterns that may exist from department to department or from groups of equipment to other groups of equipment. Here's a screenshot from our Explorer page within SimplySnap. And this allows the user kind of to dig into more of the details for a given department or equipment type. For example, looking at the bag houses might highlight that one of the pieces of equipment costs much more than similar bag houses in the factory, for example. Or it might highlight that certain bag houses are on when they're not needed, maybe on a weekend when there's no one in the plant. Why is the bag house running? Well, this information will provide that visibility to show you that there are things that you can do inside the facility to save cost, to save that energy. So once you have the costs that are associated with these things, so whether it's $22,000 to run the bag house on the weekends for a month, you'll now have a quantifiable justification for those improvement activities. All right, so at the end of the day, a lot of times you've done these projects, you've got plans, you've got all these things going on, but you've got to generate a report. Someone in upper management or within the plant wants to know how are things going. Within SimplySnap, we have the ability to generate these reports. There's going to be other users that may dig into the details within SimplySnap, but there's other users that just want a PDF emailed to them. And whatever the case, we have the ability to create these custom reports for you and deliver the information that you're looking for to report on those sustainability initiatives that are occurring within the factory, within the, coming down from headquarters. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how energy insights work. What do you need? What are the pieces of it? And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on here. There's other resources on our website and things that are coming up that can provide a little more detail about how energy insights work. But I wanted to spend a couple minutes here just to real high level show you what things are needed and the versatility that we have within SimplySnap. So I mentioned the fact that we can monitor the electrical circuits. This could also be the mains coming in. It could be individual pieces of equipment. Whatever information is there in the top left, what we're going to do is connect a CT, a current clamp, that's compatible with that particular piece of equipment. And our system, we call it the Sense 420. It's a generic wireless sensor interface. It reads data off of a 4 to 20 milliamp loop, and we can pull that data wirelessly again to our base station, communicate over the cloud to SimplySnap, and that's all the pieces you need. There's no other complex equipment needed within the facility. And again, most of this is wireless, and so the expense that is oftentimes attributed to a lot of these improvement initiatives, that goes away, helping you improve the ROI and the productivity of this program. All right, so that's energy insights. On the other side, the other problem we talked about earlier was reducing unplanned downtime. And SimplySnap condition monitoring is the solution that we have to help you solve the problems that are associated with that unplanned downtime. I pulled a couple of other stats about unplanned downtime. There was a survey about 2 years ago conducted by the International Society of Automation. And they polled a number of different manufacturers out in the space. And half of the respondents reported that downtime typically costs them about 6% of their production capability. Actually, in a third of their respondents responded that it cost them over 10% of their production capability. There was I forget the percentage exactly, but there were some respondents that said that unplanned downtime cost them 20% of their production capability. Could you imagine being in that factory where downtime cost you a fifth of your production schedule across the whole year? Whether it's 6%, 10%, or 20%, that's money just sitting there that's not coming in, that's costing you real dollars in that unplanned downtime. So, things in the back of your mind, but how to reduce that unplanned downtime. The average cost of downtime, according to Aberdeen Strategy Research, in manufacturing is about $260,000 per hour. I've actually seen higher numbers for automotive, where automotive, I believe the same research company, was around $50,000 per minute. So cost of downtime, obviously a big problem, and things that we're trying to help enable you to solve. So the problems with downtime, I'm sure these are things that may keep you up at night, but things like, hey, you're not sure if you're operating equipment in the most efficient way, or if you're constantly exceeding operational thresholds that could potentially jeopardize the long-term performance of that piece of equipment. Think about a motor constantly running on a conveyor belt. How do I know when or if that thing is going to fail? Another thing that we've heard from facility managers that, hey, they need a reliable way to measure flows, whether it's utility or equipment or material flow through various areas of their process. Because when there's no material to build, that's unplanned downtime. Another thing that we've heard is that, hey, we need to meet regulatory compliance requirements by providing validated data measuring our resource consumption. So whether it's, hey, we have this amount of material coming through a year and we're filtering out appropriately, all the things that are needed to check the boxes in terms of EHS compliance and regulation issues. The other thing that we've heard is that our production uptime has been affected due to equipment and motor failures, resulting in unscheduled downtime, adding cost and loss of productivity. So whatever the problem, I think it's apparent that unplanned downtime is a big deal within manufacturing. We're trying to avoid it. Within SimplySnap, the condition monitoring capability will help you monitor equipment and material throughout the facility. We want to help you gain insights into the reliability and the service needs and equipment issues before impacting the manufacturing process. And we want to help you understand the flow of material through the facility to help you prevent those process interruptions. And again, like I mentioned on Energy Insights, what condition monitoring is there for is to help you focus action and highlight the potential issue on critical resources before they cause unplanned downtime. In manufacturing facilities, we know that unplanned downtime is very costly. It's costing tens of thousands of dollars per hour in lost revenue. There's labor costs associated with people just sitting around. There's material costs. They're just sitting there when nothing's moving. And from our experience, unplanned downtime is really, it kind of comes from three different areas. Downtime occurs when critical process equipment fails, like a motor. Downtime occurs when processes don't have enough material to produce. You run out of powder to fill your fire extinguishers, for example, or when the facility is outside of some type of environmental or safety standard. Those are some of the most common sources of downtime. So knowing that those are the sources, again, it starts with the data. What SimplySnap can do is support a wide variety of off-the-shelf industrial sensors. And whether it's the volume of a powder silo, whether it's the flow of compressed air through the facility, whether it's the temperature and vibration of critical motors on the conveyor belt, through generic 4 to 20 milliamp sensor interfaces or other serial interfaces, SimplySnap can take that data from the sensors that you put on the equipment and present that information to the user within an easy to use, easy to read user interface within SimplySnap. Now, once you've got all that data coming in, like I mentioned before, people in manufacturing don't think about sensors, right? They think about departments, they think about the equipment. So once you have the sensors on your piece of equipment, one way to group that information would be by equipment. So in the case of a bag house, for example, you may be monitoring the differential pressure between the outside air and the filtered air to measure, the life of the filter, or you may monitor the motor driving the system. whatever the case, you can group these sensors together and then visualize that as a specific piece of equipment. So all the sensors on that are grouped together so that you can get a one quick view of what the state of that piece of equipment may be within the facility. And again, this is all sensors that are generic, right? 4 to 20 milliamp sensors are available. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of different sensors out there that can be placed onto this equipment to give you the data you need to be able to see trends and how things are behaving in the factory. Well, once you have that data and you've got trends of how the motors are operating, or trends of how the differential pressure in the filter of the baghouse is working, you need to know when something is going to go wrong without having to constantly monitor that equipment on the floor or log in to SimplySnap to view the trend lines. Once we've started collecting that critical performance data on the equipment, SimplySnap can use our triggers feature to automatically send a notification when a sensor on that equipment crosses a configured threshold. Our solutions delivery team sets up recipients of those notifications and the rules that dictate when an incident is sent out. And SimplySnap can send an SMS, they can send an email to any particular group of people that you may want to know when a certain sensor on a piece of equipment has gone out of range, out of spec. And you'll get that, like I said, via text or via email. So you're able to get that information and then react to those thresholds. And these could be proactive notifications, right? So if you know, based on the trend of how much current or how much power a motor is consuming over a period of time, and if that exceeds that could potentially show that the motor is about to fail. You could get alerted because of that. Or if the differential pressure in a filter starts to exceed the safety threshold that you've recognized, you can send that without having to just change it on some type of schedule. You can change it when it's needed. So many issues and improvements can be kind of detected by looking at that past trend, like I mentioned, and comparing it with similar equipment. So SimplySnap is going to expose that sensor data in kind of interactive time series dashboards. And by looking at the data over time, you can then look at trends, you can identify anomalies, and those anomalies, when you see them, can help provide kind of early detection of failure. So all of those pieces combined help you to reduce that unplanned downtime within the facility. So how does SimplySnap condition monitoring work? What are the pieces that you need for those? Well, very similar to Energy Insights, it's not too complicated. Like I said, there are a lot of different sensors out there, whether they're 4 to 20 milliamp or some other type of serial interface. They're going to connect to a couple of our devices, the Sense 420 or our Sense 485 wireless sensor interface. And they're, again, going to wirelessly communicate back to our site controller. And then via a cloud interface through SimplySnap, you'll be able to see all those trends. You'll be able to see that information and take action and receive the triggered notifications when certain things exceed given thresholds. All right, so kind of some key benefits of both of these solutions is that, hey, all of this is going to be easy to install on existing equipment. I mentioned it earlier, everything's wireless. Oftentimes these devices are battery operated, so you don't have to run conduit to them. You're going to be able to detect anomalies through the equipment performance when the equipment changes or something different happens than what you would expect. All that's going to help you reduce the unplanned downtime. It's going to minimize the equipment backups and all the things that you have to have in storage to solve the maintenance problems when they come up. You'll get to really kind of gain insights into a lot of the operational, how effective it is within the facility. The goal really is to identify those issues before catastrophic failures happen and then schedule maintenance, have a planned downtime rather than unplanned downtime. And then all of this data, the information that we're bringing in is going to help you establish baselines. You're going to be able to set warnings and thresholds based on the normal operating parameters within the facility. All right, so we've got a few minutes left, and I kind of want to go through some real world examples that we've had over the past couple of years, and how customers have used this, and some screenshots of different scenarios that we've seen in our customer base. So SimplySnap Energy Insights, for example, So I mentioned that our energy insights and the visualization can provide a unified view of that energy data related to, whether it's across facilities or across departments. You're able to monitor the facility equipment. That equipment could be lights, it could be HVAC systems, it could be compressed air systems, it could be the flow of utilities through the facility, it could be the machine state of various equipment. There's a lot of different things that you can monitor in terms of getting that information. And then you can use all that data to reduce cost. So here's one example of a facility that has their total amount of energy consumed over the past 7 days, what their cost was by department. So at the bottom left, you'll see the GFD department, the DISA department, the flange shop. These Pareto charts allow you to identify the biggest consumers, where you're going to get the biggest bang for the buck by optimizing and focusing your attention on those areas. Not only can you look at departments, you can also group things by equipment type. So if you have 10 different bag houses in your department, you can group all that together and see how the bag houses are performing in terms of their overall energy cost. Kind of digging a little bit deeper, you can get the energy, you can actually compare. So if you have the flange shop and the Muller and the DISA department, and you want to compare energy consumption across those departments, we make it easy to do that as well. And then on the bottom of the screen here, you can see all those departments lined up, who's the biggest consumer, and where you can focus your attention on to make the biggest impact in terms of the improvements. I mentioned earlier about the different types of timelines that we can use, whether it's weekday or weeknight or weekends. You can look at all the information and see during the typical production hours, during the weekday, who's the biggest users. During the weekends, maybe when no one's around, if you're not running weekend shifts, who's using the energy? The bar on the far left there at the bottom left, is that a department that isn't even occupied, right? That's one scenario that this particular customer had, is that they had departments that weren't even occupied on the weekend, but they were consuming a lot of energy. So they were able to focus their attention on that and reduce the amount of energy in those particular areas. And then I mentioned earlier about schedule reports. Here's an example of one of those reports that are delivered to the management team so that they can understand what their total energy cost is, what their baseline, how much they've saved on that baseline from the actual consumption, and then by department or by equipment type, how things are progressing. Similar, some real world examples of SimplySnap condition monitoring. Here's some examples of the differential pressure in filters within a bag house. So here's 6 different examples of readings that have been archived and retrieved from different pieces of equipment. You can see the trend lines that are placed on there. You can see how the bag house differential pressure, what the state of it is, and identify any things that look like anomalies that you can then go in and figure out how to fix. Kind of the production uptime side of it, the machine state and health of motors that may be associated with that particular piece of equipment. So not only about the differential pressure of that filter within the bag house, but also the motor running it. So here's that data. And again, I mentioned earlier, I've got sensors that are monitoring pressure. I've got sensors that are monitoring, velocity and temperature of the motor, maybe the acceleration of the motor. I can pull all that together into a single dashboard that shows me the health and the status of that particular piece of equipment. So here's all that information rolled up into a single view within SimplySnap. Another example that we've had customer is their material flow through the facility. So this particular customer actually ran out of powder within their silo bins. And they ran out because the guy who normally checks for whether there's enough powder in the bin was actually on vacation or out sick. He wasn't on the job that day. And so they had a plant shutdown because they didn't have powder in the silo. Well, with SimplySnap, they were able to put in a 3-dimensional sensor that measured volume. And then when that volume sensor goes below a certain threshold, they then put an alert and create a work order to load the silo with some more material that they have stored on site. And so they've eliminated relying on some person climbing a ladder with a clipboard to having actually monitored 24/7 so that they know the state of their silo bins at all times. So those have been some kind of real world examples of both energy insights and condition monitoring. And by the way, we have only kind of scratched the surface of what SimplySnap can do. Actually, probably about half maybe of what SimplySnap can do. We spend a lot of time on energy insights and condition monitoring. But what we've seen is that we can, within SimplySnap, we actually have a whole other side of SimplySnap that does control. I mentioned here about starting with the big three. And let me explain that a little bit more. What we've seen is that there are really kind of three main areas that are pervasive across most manufacturers that contribute to a lot of the costs associated with their power, their energy consumption. And addressing those issues can help them meet the energy and the sustainability goals. We call those three common things the big three. And the Department of Energy highlights those three things as well as some of the most common, biggest consumers of energy in a manufacturing space. Those big three are listed there. They're lighting, their HVAC, and their compressed air. And if you can reduce the energy consumption of those big three, you'll be able to reduce the energy footprint of your manufacturing facility and help achieve those sustainability goals. But we have control solutions that help with all of those. I did not go into that today. We can reserve the discussion about that to a future discussion. But for example, monitoring bag houses, monitoring thermostats, monitoring compressed air system, monitoring lighting. Here's the key piece of that. Everything that we've shown today in terms of condition monitoring, in terms of energy insights, even the control aspects that we're talking about lighting, controlling your lighting, controlling your compressed air system, controlling your HVAC system, that can all be done with a single product. That product is called SimplySnap. That single software package from Synapse can control and monitor and manage all these disparate pieces of equipment within your facility. And they all share the same information, and they all have a great user interface that you can go in, see the data you're looking for, have the reports generated, and share that with your executive team. I'd be remiss to go through this presentation without providing some feedback or letting you see or hear rather some of the feedback that we get from our customers. We are very, very passionate about delivering a great customer experience, whether that's through our user interface, whether that's through our on-site commissioning services that we provide, whether it's with our customized engineering services that we provide. We want to make sure that you're getting what you need, that we're helping you solve the problems that exist in your facility. And we try to do it with a little bit of that Southern hospitality, but making sure that you get and solve the problems that you're trying to achieve. And here's some examples of other folks within the industry that have had experience with us and their feedback to us on that. Well, so kind of to wrap up today's session, I wanted to kind of finish with a quick recap on what I call the SimplySnap ADAVANTAGE. We provide a holistic platform that can be used to manage disparate systems from other vendors, regardless of age, regardless of type. For that key energy and the performance data that's trying to solve those problems, you can rely on SimplySnap to provide that holistic view of your facility. And rather than upgrading your entire factory to new equipment to gain those efficiencies, SimplySnap allows you to connect to existing equipment and begin getting a better understanding of how you can control what you already have in a more efficient way. It's going to allow you to gain the benefits of the industrial IoT, and it's going to allow you to get started on those efforts without a wholesale upgrade of the systems in your plant. You're going to be able to utilize SimplySnap in the same type of benefit that you'll get from hefty investments in modern equipment, but you'll be able to add SimplySnap to your plant and meet that stringent 2 to 3 year payback period.